This is great for me. It's an ad. I mean, it's the gray background. It's the vignetted corners. She's not looking at us. It's about the dress. It's not about her, but she still looks great in there. There's I guess the person put their own name in there, but there's room for copy. Got the knee bent, the hand. The hand may be just a little too flat on for my taste. To just soften the hand a little bit. That's across the front. But I like the hand at the head.
What do you mean by soften the hand? What does that mean?
Well,
I mean, am I going to put lotion on my hand?
Well, that might help too, but soften, I think ballet hands, I think you said it yesterday, when you grab someone's hand and you press it here in the middle of the palm and it brings their thumb and middle finger together. I think ballet hands, just a soft, come up and shoot the sides of the hands, not the fist.
But beautiful, beautiful picture. And I think that one of the reasons that this image works for me is the fact that the expression on her face, it's very fun and very playful. She looks like she's actually enjoying wearing that garment. So in that editorial and advertising world, you'll notice that the images are very much about expression. And that's, by the way, a great tool to keep in your arsenal, is that if everything else fails and you can't remember a certain pose or you can't remember how to do something, if you get great expression from your subject, everything else is forgivable. Great expression trumps it all.
Emotion.
Love it. I think this is adorable.
I love it, but it's the what do you call the spot color thing is,
Selective color.
It's kind of been overdone for me, having the red lips on there, but otherwise I like the image. Maybe if it wasn't just a black and white with a red, maybe if it was just desaturated quite a bit, it might be a little stronger for me. It's sort of like the HDR thing where spot colors just kind of lessens the impact for me. But
And typically I hate hand coloring stuff. I did it in the 90s, so I hate it. This is actually one of the few exceptions where it does not bother me in this photograph, and because it's in the advertising category, to me, I feel that in that particular context, it's okay. I love the expression on his face. I think the maker did an interesting job. The way that they lit it, it's very moody. The bottle is, the way they lit that bottle, the light is separating the bottle from the background. John, can you talk a little bit about the lighting on this and what maybe you would do different?
I'm not sure what I do different. I mean, I'd want to separate him from the wall a little bit. He's just too close and there's too much detail on the wall. We've seen that in a few images where the background is competing with the subject. The background needs to fall away, so it may be more in the choice of aperture than in the lighting here, because we still want that hard lighting on his face. I like that hard shadow. The light's just above his eyes, so you can see the nose shadow cast down a little bit, but doesn't quite reach the mouth, so there's some separation there. So I think the lighting was done well, but I just want that background to go just a little bit softer. It feels newer than I think I want it to feel. I'd like to be more rustic.
That's a great way to put that. Boy, you are so good with words, John.
This is a lot of fun. Makes me wonder what movie they're watching. I mean, the lighting is done really well, that the people in the front seat are lit more than the guy in the back seat. I assume he's in the back seat, or is he just I think he's leaning over
he's leaning
between
over
the
seat.
seats, so he's a little further back, so the lighting works there. As an editorial, though, I mean, it works more as advertising, I think. Editorial, I may want to see some more shadowing on the faces, because usually when I think of watching someone who's watching a movie or a TV screen, there's colors and things moving across it. It's not so flat lit. But it comes down to what the makers wanted to do with it. It works either way for me, but just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I'd almost just like to see, I think this is a really fun image. I think that they told a great story with this picture. The one thing I'd like to see is, I feel like I'd like to see it just taken down just a little bit. I feel that it's a little bit too bright for the context of the environment. The hood of the car especially. I just feel that if this, in making this photograph a little bit more editorial, I'd like to just see some of the tones just pulled down just a little bit more, so that we kind of feel like we're actually peering into a car.
Yeah, I understand why they probably lit the front of the car that way, because you're thinking there's light from the screen hitting it, But if the light from the screen's hitting it, it's bouncing towards the people, not toward us. It would probably still be dark toward us. Remember, angle of incidence equals angular reflection, so the light's from the screen's not going to come at this and right back at us unless it was a flat up. So I think a little more vignetting or tone down the hood of the car would even draw us more into the people in the car.
So for those that aren't familiar with that angle of incidence thing, can you just like demonstrate exactly what do you mean by that?
Well, when light hits a subject, it bounces back off at the same angle that it hit it. So if the light's coming straight down, it's going to come right back at the camera. We did a still life thing here with, I think it was Andrew Scrivani recently, where we were shooting some food and the plate was really reflecting, and all we did was lower the light just a little bit so that the reflection in the plate went below the camera instead of right into the lens.
Okay, very good, thank you.
First thing I'm trying to do is figure out if the horizon's straight. Sorry. Actually, the trees are pretty straight. Sometimes, you know, in the way the land goes, you really can't tell. But you know, at first I feel a little skewed, but then as I fall into the picture, I get comfortable with it. The lighting works pretty well on here. I'd like to maybe see a little more interface of a reflector or something kicking in. What I am disturbed by, though, is the corners. It doesn't look like a traditional vignette. It looks like a lens hood was on wrong, or it was the wrong size lens hood, or there's some filter on the lens that was causing the vignette in the corners. It just doesn't feel natural to me. But I am drawn to the center, to the people, to that brightness behind him. I like the flare coming through there, but why is that corner blue?
Yeah, that was my thoughts exactly. I think, as just a word of critique, I like the connection between the two people. I think that they have an engaging look with one another. I want to see a bit more room below them. So what I would think might have been good was to back up just a little bit and then photograph from a slightly lower camera angle. I want a bit more foreground. And again, those corners, I completely agree with you. The corners are a bit, that is a very great distraction. I would not want to see that.
Yeah, that's a tough one to get the camera angle here, because as you say, you want to shoot from a lower angle. That's going to lessen the foreground, so you're going to have to move back even more. You know, as you move the camera down, we lose foreground. As the camera goes up, the foreground stretches out in front of the person.
Yes, Patty?
When you have a really bright background like that, because even if you want to shoot a portrait or something, where do you meter?
It depends on what you want to show up.
If you want to make sure that they're not dark in the front of them, where would you meter?
John?
I'm not a big meter fan. I tend to, I'll go, well, outdoors I will use the camera meter, but then I'll start overriding it. And I use the LCD quite a bit. And even in the studio, I do have a light meter in the studio, and I usually use it after I'm done, and it always comes up that I shot at like a stop and a half different than what the meter told me I was. So for here, I want to get their faces, so I may spot meter on the face and then open up slightly. Caucasian skin is about a 36% reflectance, so that's, I think, a mistake a lot of people make. If they spot meter on the palm of their hand and then shoot at that, it's going to be underexposed because the hand is brighter than what the meter's looking for. So spot meter on the skin and then open up about a stop, and that'll probably be where we get you into the ballpark, but I'd still look at it and see how good you can get it.
And that's what I do. I use the spot meter, and I'll meter on the face, and then I will open up slightly, depending on what I want to show up. And this is one of my favorite techniques to do. I do it in the studio literally all the time. I like to have a bright face against a very light background. I think it just is, it's kind of my little thing right now, is that I'm kind of liking light, airy backgrounds and a soft, warm, a bright skin. So when I'm out shooting, for instance, when I was out in the desert photographing, I took for Met Bride, I metered on the face, opened up about a stop so that I could really, so the background would go completely light, very light tonality, and then the faces would be exposed properly. Doing that in a doorway is beautiful. It can be really, really pretty to do.
And it's a balance that they've done really well here. I mean, it is super bright behind them, but the flare's not blowing out their faces. I can still make out their faces, so whoever did this did a really nice job at balancing it all.
I really like this
grunge,
image.
yes.
Yeah, this is very grunge. The pose is fantastic. To me, it works really well with what this young man is doing. I like the separation between him and the background. John?
Yeah, if the camera was raised about an inch or 2 inches, he would separate just a little bit from the crossbar behind him. I mean, it's a slight connect there, and probably wouldn't bother. The subject wouldn't notice it. I mean, a lot of the stuff we're talking about too is things other photographers notice. Like yesterday, I think you were talking about lighting patterns in the lake. I mean, no one comes into the studio and says, "Oh, I want a Rembrandt short-lit image of myself," you know. But you want to know that stuff so you can use it. But you know, I think the subject of this would probably love this just as it is.
Mm-hmm. And I like the way that they separated him by using that kicker light to illuminate his body. And they've also done a very nice job of lighting the skateboard as well. The one area that is bugging me, keeps pulling my eye away, is the bright spot on the
shipping container.
Yeah, on the shipping container. That I find, I'd love to see them take that down because my eye bounces between that and him. And I'm actually wondering even if that's even important to be in the picture, if that makes, if you cropped it out, if that would make a difference.
Yeah, just halfway into the blue one, get the full yellow and half of the blue. It might make a stronger image because it'll make him larger too.
Mm-hmm. Very nice though,
Yeah.
Nicely done.
The Challenger. I mean, it's nicely lit. We've got this fill on the grill of this car, but I feel if this was going to be an ad, they'd probably want another card underneath to make the whole word Challenger stand out.
Can you talk a bit more about that? What do you mean by that? A card? What?
I'm taking,
you know, like a playing card or what?
Some sort of white paper on the ground, a white piece of foam core, white artboard or something like that. That's just going to lighten up the bottom of the letters. See, at the top of the letters, there's probably a softbox that's lighting those up, but the bottom of the letters curve underneath, and they're not getting hit by the softbox. So I just want to get something white underneath to fill in the letters there. You may, again, this may be a time to do 2 exposures because the grill looks great going from the bright spots to the bottom there. So you may want to put the card in for one shot, take it out, and then in Photoshop combine them so that the word Challenger is more legible, but you still have the dramatic fall off in the grill work itself.
Now, you mentioned using a softbox. For those that aren't familiar with, you know, maybe this is the first time they've ever seen anything like this, why not use an umbrella? You know, why are you talking softbox? And are there different kinds that you should consider?
Yeah, so an umbrella could work on this, but then you're probably going to see the ribs of the umbrella in the silver of the car. During Photo Week, I did a lighting class where I showed this on a wine bottle using a softbox versus an umbrella at the same position, and the softbox gives this nice, smooth, hard-edged reflection down the bottle, where the umbrella, you see the light itself, you see the ribs of the umbrella, and it falls off toward the edges. So the softbox gives just a nice, even fill across. Umbrellas tend to spill light in all sorts of directions, where softbox just kind of pushes it forward.
Well, is there a way, what if you don't have a softbox? What if you're a photographer who's newer? Is there anything, are you just kind of
shower
screwed?
screen.
What?
A shower curtain.
Okay, so talk to me about that.
Translucent shower curtain. So hang the shower curtain in front of the subject and put your light behind it. And sometimes it gives you even more control than a softbox because you can move the light closer to the shower curtain to make the light smaller. You can pull it away without having to move the shower curtain itself. So you can kind of point the light up or down in there and give some gradation also to the light, where a softbox is, the idea of softbox is to have the front of it evenly lit. By using something like a shower curtain, cloth one is better than plastic, especially if you're using hotter lights. It won't melt and catch fire on you.
Yeah, that'd be a good thing.
But yeah, that's, again, and in past Creative Live classes, Don Giannotti goes over how to do homemade lighting modifiers like that.
That's great. I like that a lot. And in fact, his course is probably one of those that's on sale this month too, isn't it?
Don Giannotti's Lighting Essentials, believe so.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
So I love MacGyvering it. I just think that it's important for us to learn how to MacGyver things, because if we can do that, then we are never sitting there going, oh, I can't, I'm stuck. So I love thinking in an abstract way. So that idea about the shower curtain is just really a great one.
Yeah. And now we have another image up here. This just looks like an 1970s, 80s vintage ad that could run today. I mean, it's got this feel, the coloration, the warm tones, the attitude. It looks like she's biting into those flowers there. I don't mind that her elbow goes out because it does return back in. Yeah. If her arm was straight out holding something out here, I'd say, ouch. But here, it comes back in, the head tilted back, a soft light attitude. It works for me.
So what do you think that they're selling in this picture?
Selling attitude.
Okay, that's very good. And that's an important thing to think about, is what is the ad, what are they selling? Because in many cases, it's not about the product, it's about an experience.
Yes.
And that's really, to me, perfect advertising is one that sells an experience.
What are you going to feel when you use this product?
Yeah. One of my favorite companies I've ever, that I've tried to emulate is Tiffany's. And a number of years ago, Tiffany's had this fantastic ad in a bride's magazine. And it was a picture of a woman and a man, and she's got her arms wrapped around his head, and you can barely see her big honkin' diamond. I mean, barely, like just a little bit, but it's almost cut off in the entire picture. And she's hugging him with her cheek. And there's no words on the ad. And down at the very tiny part of the bottom, literally in very small letters, it has the name Tiffany and where you can find them. And I saw that ad and I went, oh, that is brilliant marketing, because they don't even have to show the product for us to want to buy into it. And it made me realize how powerful emotional responses can be to us, and that many times photographers specifically, we think it's all about our art, and so we'll make like the history of the universe part 1 and 2. We'll tell everybody about every accolade we've ever had. We'll say, well, I won this award in 1992 and blah, 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 and we have all this stuff, and nobody cares a bit about that stuff.
You're saying like on your about page. It's like, I've been doing this for 35 years and I have this great no, tell the person what they're going to feel by working with you. Why are you special to them? Why are they special to you? You can be in business for 3 months if you're really good, and you just have this connection that you're going to make them feel the best they've ever felt in their life. Be yourself, only better when you're with me, something like that.
Yeah. And so when it comes to ads that you're going to do, make sure that it's about an interesting photograph. Make the picture big and don't have a bunch of words on a page, because what happens when you do that, and advertisers understand this, which is why when you see advertisements in magazines, big picture, little tiny words, and the price of that product, if they happen to have the price in there of a product, it's in literally microscopic words, because they don't want you to think logically, they want you to think emotionally, so that it will override the logic of that expensive product. And there's nobody, magazines to me are made for women, and women are our clients as a general rule. I think even in the advertising world, they're selling to women. Kodak did research a number of years ago, and they found out that somewhere in the 90% range of products, photography is bought by women. Think about how powerful that is. And we women buy magazines like crazy. There's not a bride in the world that doesn't go out. The first thing she does when she gets engaged is go buys the bride magazine. She starts looking through that magazine. And so that's where I started getting my ideas for my advertising and marketing material, and for pictures that I took for my website. Is I started looking at the pictures. Well, how large is the picture? Is it an interesting picture? Is it a beautiful person? Or what is it that makes people want to stop here? And then how big is the lettering and the wording? Because I want to give enough, I want them to come to me not because of what I charge, but in spite of what I charge. So the wording on my brochures and on my marketing material is very, very minimal. It's very, very minimal, and the photographs are very interesting, and that way it's something that grabs their attention first, and then I can show them afterwards about the logical end of it. By the way, if anybody's interested in marketing material, I have on BambiCantrell.net, under the tab Bambi Land, I have some marketing templates that can give you some ideas on that kind of thing. But this is really very interesting.
Yeah, do you mind the crop through the hair?
Not at all.
No, I don't either.
No, not at all. No, I think it's just very nice.
Yeah.
And I don't mind the hand cropped out either. I'm hungry.
On this one, I just wish they use a bigger light. I see that the highlight on the chocolate is so small. It's this big specular highlight. Looks like the light's kind of far away from the subject. If there was a softbox, and it doesn't have to be large. This plate and strawberries are probably 8 inches by 8 inches. So even a 12 by 12, 24 by 24 square softbox in just right outside the frame would make such a beautiful highlight on the chocolate, and it would get rid of all the hot spots in there and just make it more luscious for me.
Mm-hmm. Sure would, I think so too.
I think it may even make a highlight down the pore of the chocolate there, but it's a nice exposure, the white on white, and Styling wise, I would probably choose different strawberries that weren't so white at the top there. I mean, if you're going to do advertising, you're going to go out and buy 500 strawberries and find the right two. So I hope you like strawberries.
Yeah, let me ask you about that, John. About do you think it would pay to hire a stylist to come and help you with food?
Definitely for food stuff. Yeah, there's few photographers that do both the styling and the shooting. We have a couple of classes with Andrew Scrivani available in the catalog that are sure on sale, where he does both for the New York Times and others, and we cover a lot of the lighting stuff like this on how to do this stuff. But yeah, a stylist really helps, because you're concentrating on the technical stuff and getting things ready where they can be picking the right image. They can get the strawberries placed on the plate so that they look the best. I mean, it's what they do for a living, and it just works out really well working with a team. I really enjoyed looking at this photo. For me, it's about the photographer that's lit in the background there. Yeah, everyone else is dark, and there's just this one person that's there, and that's more the subject for me of this Fashion Week image. I mean, the model looks great. You don't have control of where her hand is, and you probably couldn't raise your camera a foot to get it to not touch her face, so I'm not going to go there. It's an editorial image. It's what it was. But for me, I really enjoy that there's this one person back there that's taking the picture.
So what about the exposure on her, though? What are your thoughts on that?
On which one? On
the bride, on the model itself.
The bride, it's a little hot there, but you don't have to control. Maybe in post you can try to tone down, but it's hard to tone down really bright whites without them starting to look dirty. I'm sure there's Photoshop experts that can do it. It's not something I found out myself to be good at.
So, but couldn't you, when she's walking down that aisle, could you not take a light meter reading and then compensate, say, okay, this light's going to be very bright? What are your thoughts on that?
But if I lower the exposure for the dress, then I'm going to maybe lose her face. So again, it's a compromise. What's more important, to get the face, get all the texture in the fabric, and it's hard to tell on these monitors. There may be texture in that fabric.
Okay.
It may look better than it actually does here. I may take that little blue square of the metal leg of the table at the front and just clone it out or dodge it down a little bit, just something less to pull the eye.
Okay, very good. Questions? You guys have any questions about this?
Yeah.
Yes, Steve.
Do you see a crop that would be stronger for the image?
I'm not seeing, for me, I don't see a stronger crop. This is a tough photograph for me to critique, because you know that if this is during Fashion Week, you don't have a lot of control, and you're not going to be able to go, okay, change this. But I'll tell you what I would do if I were in this scenario, because I've had to shoot runway before. And one of the things that I've done is I try to, before I'm going to get to the finale, I try to stack the deck in my behalf. So when I start seeing the first person that comes down that aisle, I want to make sure that I nail the exposure, because exposure is critical, and especially on white dresses like this, it's very, very critical. And so the first thing I would do is when that first person gets to the point where I know I want to take the photograph, the first person to walk down, I'm going to try to nail the exposure and get the exposure right. I'm going to look at the back of that screen, and then I'm going to say to myself, okay, do I need to increase my exposure, or do I need to decrease it a bit? So that I'm prepared when the finale, or when something that is the hero shot walks down that aisle, so that I'm not having to guess. I use the same technique when I'm photographing a wedding, because, for instance, when the bride and stuff is walking down the aisle, that's not the time for you to go, excuse me, or you can't. To me, I don't like to stop.
Can we do that
people.
again?
Yeah. So what I try to do, I will say to my assistant, if I know that, let's say she's walking down a staircase to get to where her ceremony site is. If I know that she's got to walk down that staircase, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-plan in my mind how I'm going to accomplish it. So I'll tell my assistant, hey, Mike, I want you to walk down that staircase till you get to this point. Let me take a light meter reading off of you. That way, I've got a foundation. And that way, he gets to that spot, I'll take a couple of exposures, I'll see which one is going to give me the best bang for my buck, from the background, the foreground, and then, of course, my subject. And that way, when she starts walking down that staircase, I don't have to stop her and go, excuse me, honey, could you stop for a second? But it's a great way to pre-plan and get the job done in real time and in a good photojournalistic way, which in this case, this would really lend itself to more of a PJ experience.
PJ being photojournalistic.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, and I hope that for Fashion Week, the models are more experienced and have a good pace coming down. I've had to shoot runway things with amateur models or someone who's the first time, or someone got Craigslist people, you want to be in a fashion show, and they come out there and they think they're going slow and they run. And then when they come back, they seemed like it went so fast. Yeah, it went so fast because you ran down that aisle. You know, they thought they were just moving slow, but that adrenaline of the first time being out in front of people. So it's really tough. If you have to shoot an amateur show, try to get there early, talk to the models, go through a rehearsal with them, and try to explain the pacing to them, where you're going to be, and say, stop at this point, do a turn, and you know I'm going to be there. Make eye contact with me. I mean, in a big show like this, you can't, because there's 600 photographers all lined up back there. Then you know, as you said, sometimes you can't get the place you want to be. You know, there's this pecking order and ranking of the fashion paparazzi that are already in place, so it's a tough situation.
So, but what you can do, even if you can't at this particular time and this particular event, you can't, maybe let's say you can't talk to the models, and or even if you could, they probably are so crazy they would forget anyway. But what you can do is you can pre-plan other scenarios with similar lighting. So in other words, what I try to do is you know, this room could be my studio. This room could be a church. This room could be, you know, a place where I have to photograph a family. Similar experiences happen in a variety of locations. So in other words, a church could be a runway. I mean, many churches are lit a lot like a runway, actually. So what I try to do is I have concepts, and I go, okay, well, this concept, can I apply that concept to this experience? And then that, to me, helps me to become a more able to get things off the cuff in a more experienced way. John?
This one doesn't quite work as well for me.
Why?
I'm drawn to the green. I guess it's a tree trunk with moss on it in the front is even though her skin is light and bright, I still think the lighting is emphasizing that tree in the back, and she's just a secondary part of it. I'm not sure where the fabric's coming from or going to, or why it's leading out of her like that. I'd like it to be more about the model than about that tree.
You know, there are many things I like about this photograph very much. I am nuts about the experience and what they tried to do. I think that I love it when people shake up my brain a little bit, and the way that they have this girl positioned, I think it's really interesting, and I like that a great deal. I think where the problem in this photograph is the lighting falls short. I think where the camera position is in relation to the lighting. So if they had, to me, in my opinion, had moved the lighting to the back side of her, so that it kind of rim lit her a bit, and maybe illuminated that dress in a less than frontal way, this would be a fabulous shot to me, because I love the composition. I like very much the way that they were creating a story that's very quirky and interesting, but I think that the lighting just, to me, makes it fall short a little bit.
Yeah, I love the sky, the black background with the model. I mean, if I crop the image in half and just take the top half to where the fabric starts to go horizontal, I mean, it's much stronger. I'm just getting, because the knots in the wood look like eyes, and it's almost like a face down there, and we tend to look at faces. That face is more in our face than her face is. So it's just too much in the front. Maybe a longer lens that would have cropped out some of that foreground might help.
One of the other things that I like that they did is the way that they have the model's legs positioned. I love the fact that there is separation between those legs. I think that's really, really an important element. I would like to have seen a bit of separation between this front arm and her chest. I think that would have made for a little bit more of an interesting story. But the maker is definitely should be commended for doing something that's a bit different.
It's a great concept and start, and I think just a little bit of work on it can really pop it up in a couple of notches.
Yep, sure can.